Hello, everybody. I'm here with our delightful blood vessel boy here, our flat model, to show you the arteries and veins of your arms. So let's get started. So your arms, we always start here with your subclavian. So your subclavian artery here branched off from your aortic arch or your brachycephalic trunk and went to your upper limbs. So you have a left and a right one. All of these are left and right depending upon what side of the body we are talking about. So your subclavian is going to come underneath your clavicle here, and then it's going to dip in close to your armpit. Remember from A&P1, your armpit is called your axillary region. So from that point on, your subclavian artery is called your axillary artery. Your axillary artery is going to keep having the blood flow down your arm to where it gets closer to your bicep muscles. And this is called your brachial artery because brachial was Latin for arm, right? So that's your brachial artery. And we're just going to continue going down your brachial artery because you don't have to know what these little ones are until we get to the branch offs that go to your forearm here. Remember, you guys had two bones in your forearm. You have your radius, which helps your wrist, like it helps you do that fancy, like queen wave, move back and forth like this. And then you have your ulna, which moves your arm up and down, right? We're just going to name our blood vessels same as the bones that are near them. So this would be your ulnar artery, and this is your radial artery, right? From there, we're going to get into the palmar arcs and what's feeding our hands. The ones that are closest to the surface of the skin that, you know, when you were a kid and you wiped out on your bicycle and you bruised and cut up your hand pretty bad and it bled, those are the ones that are going to be closer to the surface of the skin. And those are called your superficial, or all of those little arteries were branching off of your superficial palmar arc. On the flip side of things, if we're talking about Halloween horror movies, where, you know, like Catelyn Stark, somebody tried to cut her because we're talking Game of Thrones medieval time and she grabs the blade and her palm bleeds a bunch, that would be your deep palmar artery here that was cut and that nobody in any movie ever dies from an infection from. And then the itty bitty little arteries that just go to the fingers are called digital arteries. Looping back around to look at where the veins are, right? You have digital veins coming in from your fingers because why wouldn't they be named the same? And then you have an arc on the back of your hand. You've seen people get IVs with this, and if you are a pale pasty person such as myself, you can see that blue tint of where these veins are on the back of your hand. That is your palmar venous arc, and those lead into the veins on the left and right side of your arm. Once again, you're following the bones, so you have a radial vein and an ulnar vein. But that leads to, switching back to this arm now, this crossover area on the inner side of your elbow. This is where most IVs are placed. If you've ever given blood before, this is where they take your blood from. This is called your median cubital vein. Right, so you guys have dealt with this a great deal if you poke people for a profession. And that leads you to the veins going up your arm. And you have three big veins going up the main part of the top part of your arm, right? Brachial vein is deep inside with the muscle going up your arm, just like it was with the artery. But along the outside of your arm, you have another vein just running along the outside of it called the cephalic vein. That's going to go all the way up and then meet your subclavian. We know that we had the brachial in the middle here, but the brachial in the middle doesn't account for the vein that is feeding like your arm flab here, essentially. This inner vein that is tiny and feeding your arm flab would be the basilic vein, and you're going to have a point in time, right, where basic, which is this outer artery, and your brachial artery meet, and things go through the armpit. So the two of them meet to become the axillary artery. And then your not artery, I started saying artery, I'm so sorry. So you have the brachial artery and the basilic, you have the brachial vein and the basilic vein come together to make the axillary vein here for the armpits. And you had a the cephalic vein on the outside of your arms. So cephalic vein and your axillary vein will meet to become your subclavian vein, and subclavian will go back to your superior vena cava. Right. So you have median cubital here, and from there you have three major veins in the top part of your arm. You have the cephalic vein along the outside of your arm, basilic vein, which is on the internal structure of your arm, and brachial vein, which is in the middle muscle area. Basilic and brachial meet to become axillary. Axillary and cephalic veins meet to become subclavian. And those would be the arteries and veins of your arms. Let me know if you need anything.